All right, welcome to Clean Radio. Hey, Judah, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I think we just had a slight malfunction with our intro, but we can survive that.
I think that's on you. I'm going to
That's
blame
on
it
me.
all on you,
Oh,
Andrew.
come on, really?
Why not? I get to so little. I get to blame on you.
Well, welcome to Clean Radio, everyone. We're live tonight on News Talk 760 KFMB in San Diego and WWRL AM 1600 in New York.
Yes, and now as I'm hearing the music still playing in the background, I'm going to say it wasn't your fault.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, anytime.
I appreciate that.
I do anything for you.
Little honesty.
Yeah,
right?
And that's 1600 AM in New York and 760 KFMB San Diego, and everybody around the world that could listen to us on cleanradio.com. That's clean with a K.
In fact, I got a quick shout out. I never do this, but Tina, Zoe, and Madison in Louisiana are listening to us online.
And those are who?
Family and friends.
Family and friends. Okay.
Actually, all family.
I don't know who Madison is. That's why.
Cousin.
And in New Orleans, that can mean a lot of things.
Oh, that's mean.
But we are a show about addiction and recovery and the life after you get sober.
Yes.
And the amazing life that it can be. Where, we're not just here to talk about, we could talk to people about whether they're struggling in active addiction. And we'd love to hear your stories about success.
Yeah, and if you're out there, you got a problem, we're here to help, and we take calls. Feel free to call us. Our number tonight is 888-458-5441. Why don't you do it? You probably do a better job,
That's
Judah.
888-458-5441. That's 888-458-5441. It is a little bit of a tongue twister, that 5441.
It's also a different number for us.
It is also a different number for us. But why don't you tell people a little bit about what you are, what it is that you do, because I think it's important for people, because why would they want to talk to you?
Yeah, well, I've been running treatment centers for a while, and as well as psychiatric hospitals, and now I'm running KLEAN Treatment Center, and we work with people that have problems with drugs and alcohol and addiction issues and dual diagnosis, which means people that have other behavioral health problems, mental health problems.
So let me ask you a question. You've been doing this basically for 22 years. First you were in the psychiatric, now you're into treating people with addictions. Why is it that people with addictions are still looked at sometimes, occasionally, as people with moral, that it's not a disease?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the history of the illness is that there's always been sort of, especially in America, a Calvinistic sort of religious moral look at addiction as being a moral failure and not as a disease. And only fairly recently, in the last 50 years, really, has there been a progressive understanding of alcoholism and addiction as being an actual illness. So, we're starting to see finally people recognizing that people can actually get help for these things from professionals. And on their own through self-help groups.
Yeah, and something we were talking about yesterday was loneliness. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people out there that are going through, you take the economy, take everything, that are lonely right now.
Yeah, I mean, loneliness is certainly a driver both into addiction and alcoholism, but also people that are addicted and alcoholic are lonely themselves generally.
Right.
They become very lonely and isolated.
Right.
So.
And in the beginning, it started out as fun, going to the clubs every night or going to bars, and eventually you find yourself in your apartment by yourself.
Right. And some people, it is fun the whole way, and then something happens that, they get in an accident, they kill somebody, or they get a DUI, or there's some consequence, they fight with a spouse or something that makes them decide that and recognize that they have a problem. Some people don't have to go all the way down to drinking in the gutter to realize that they have a problem. Some people are lucky enough to figure out that they have a problem earlier on and get into a life of recovery and sobriety.
And that's something actually Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, talked about, was raising the bottom for young people, that they didn't have to go to Skid Row, that they, because when I was a kid...
Which is actually ironic, because AA is so much about late-stage alcoholism, at least the early editions
of
in
course.
particular.
But that's how they found them. They'd go to the
hospitals and jails
and bring homeless people off the street.
Yep.
And then they started seeing an influx of young people. And they realized that not everybody has to go through that.
Part of that's also the better medical understanding of how addiction works and how it's progressive, and that people build tolerance. And you can have a period where you don't actually have a problem with addiction. You just have a problem with use or abuse of a substance, and then at some point you cross over into addiction. Some people that happens quickly. Can happen on the first drink sometimes. Genetically, some people are just predisposed to being very alcoholic. Other people, sometimes they have to drink for 20 years before they cross that line.
So we just came from a barbecue where
a sober barbecue,
and every Sunday night at your place, at your treatment center, we barbecue, and it's pretty wild, and it's a lot of fun. And we had, one of the people that came was a guest on a previous show, and it was nice seeing. It's nice seeing a mix of sober people with people trying to get sober. This whole mix, and yesterday we were speaking on the phone with this lady that had a year sober, had just moved out here, but she was lonely.
Right.
And
well, there were so many different emotions tonight. Right. Actually, it's funny. We've never really actually talked about this kind of stuff, but we were just over there for, well, you were there a little longer. I was there for an hour before we had to come do the show. But just in the hour that I was there, the amount of emotional experiences that I was feeling as I was talking to different clients at different stages of recovery that were there at that barbecue, it was pretty impressive. I mean, we had one person who's leaving tomorrow treatment, and she's feeling that fear, and she's scared about leaving. She finally feels comfortable. She's been sober for a little over a month, and now she's having to face going back out into transitional care, and she's very nervous and worried about that. And then we had somebody that just came in that's freaking out about, I don't think I really want to be here. And then there was another client who actually decided to stay longer, and who had been very reluctant and a very difficult client, and didn't want treatment, and now finally has figured out that it's an amazing thing. So.
And what's amazing that you're talking about this is because there are people driving around right now that, whether it's them, their husband, or listening to us online, whether it's you, your husband, your family member, your kids, you're wondering, where's the hope?
Yeah.
When is there ever going to be a light at the end of the tunnel? And this isn't a show. We're not trying to convince people to stop drinking or stop doing drugs. If you're still having fun.
Well, we can't do that on the radio.
Right. Enjoy it. But there are people out there that don't, and it's hard, especially you watch the news all the time and you watch all these programs. Hey, if I wasn't sober, I'm sober a little over 13 years. If I wasn't sober and I had no clue about this, I think it didn't work. Because all I ever see on the news is actors that die from overdoses. That you never see the great stories.
There's a couple. Robert Downey Jr. I mean, nobody ever would have thought he would have gotten sober.
Right, but that's a perfect example. Why isn't more praise?
Because he's smart enough to, be quiet about it.
Right, and he just lives his life.
Lives his life.
Right.
He regained his sanity by realizing that he doesn't have to be all out there.
Right. But to the people out there that are listening, there is hope. There are tons of us that have made it through this, like as they say, this seemingly hopeless thing.
Right.
And live amazing lives. And one of the people has written a book, and it's called Orange Sunshine. Orange. You
can't say orange?
Orange. That's how I say orange.
That's how you say orange? Well, you just said it right. You just said wrong, and then you said how you said it right.
No, I said
that's such
sunshine.
Another Judaism.
I said sunshine.
That's going to make the best list of Judah.
I was referring to
now it's sunshine. Now they're going to think you're drunk on the air.
That's the part I was having a problem
What is going on here?
I'm getting a trip.
This is the most important part of your job is introducing the guest.
Yes. And the name of the book is Orange Sunshine.
Orange.
I'm from New York, okay?
You are from New York.
To all our New York listeners, please defend me. I'm saying it the right way.
Call us at the number here.
Call us at 888-458-5441. That's 888-458.
And tell us how they say orange in Brooklyn.
441. Believe me, I say it as it's the people I grew up with used to say burger like baiga.
Right.
Okay.
And it's fur instead of four. That's the one that drives me really nuts.
No, I don't say that. I say four.
Yeah?
And I can't even hear myself. I could be saying fur for all I know. Anyways, he came all the way from Orange County. He wrote a book called Orange Sunshine, How I Almost Survived America's Cultural Revolution. And his name is Marc DuQuette. I love how Rand on the page our producer Rand put it phonically so I'd be able to say it, so we'd be able to say his name.
He should have done that with orange as well.
Yeah, he should have done that with orange. And thank you for coming into the studio. Let's welcome Marc DuQuette to Clean Radio.
Hey, welcome, Marc.
Thank you.
I have to say, and people can't see this, we'll make sure a picture of the book's online at cleanradio.com. But it's an incredible cover with you with a modified, or I guess a replica, but probably fully functional automatic Thompson machine gun. And you appear to be surrounded by a couple of Mexican revolutionaries, I would say.
But that was 1974. So.
Wow. So that wasn't Mexican revolutionaries. Those were American revolutionaries.
Yeah, those were American revolutionaries. Right.
It's quite the picture because he's like a hippie dude with a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say he's just pretty much badass Southern biker or rocker type.
Okay.
I know. What were you, Mark?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was a biker, and I came out of the Army very angry in the early 60s. And
Was this post-Vietnam or during Vietnam?
during Vietnam, yeah, I lucked out, and I was what was called a Vietnam era veteran. I volunteered for the infantry, and I didn't have to go. They sent me around different forts in the United States and trained me on different weapons.
Wow.
And when I got out of the Army, I became angry about the Vietnam War. I joined an organization of veterans against the war, and then I just kept moving farther and farther to the left from there, and but
Almost all the way
prior to that,
you
I'd
went
been
so
a
far
biker.
left, you got to the right.
yeah, that's exactly what happened.
And was there a lot of drug use as this time was going on? Or addiction?
Right. We started out with in my biker days before I got political. We became a hippie, and I was in San Francisco for the Summer of Love, 1967.
So let me
And-
guess. I would say speed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was working in factories, riding my chopper, and taking Benzedrine,
Right. Benzedrine.
amphetamine sulfate.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
I have no idea what that is.
That's like that was the most popular type of speed prior to meth coming back.
Big white crosses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah. We always used to say truck drivers take them all the time, so it's okay.
Right.
On your Harley, I
So
guess.
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
that wasn't true.
No. Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
You've never been a trucker, so you can't say. Right?
El Camino.
El Camino driver on speed.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess that's now I know who buys El Caminos.
Is,
People on speed. Yeah.
and
I
people
want a car, I want a
and
truck.
every single show on
I can't make up my mind.
Identification Discovery, like all the murderers have the El Caminos.
I've
That's-
never noticed that.
Have you never watched the channel?
Why would you be a murderer
that's
and have an El
unfair.
Camino? Because then you
Yeah.
can't hide the body anywhere. That doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
I'm
I
not
stand
going there.
corrected.
Yeah, Mark's not gonna disclose
No.
how you dispose of a body in an El Camino.
I stand corrected. Go
So
ahead.
you're doing speed. You were an outlaw biker.
That's right. And I had a terrible motorcycle wreck. And when I came out of the hospital, my brother introduced me to LSD. This was like November 1966.
See, I can't see that being comfortable doing LSD like coming out of a hospital. That sounds like
It was strange.
Yeah.
Because I replayed the motorcycle wreck.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna
once
say.
was enough.
I would think it would like induce the trauma again.
I was warned about that.
Oh, really?
That
like
could
when
happen.
after you took it?
Before.
Like 5
Right.
minutes
On
after
the-
you took
on
it.
the trip.
But I was willing to go to any lengths to change where I was.
I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's an amazing point. What you say. And we'll get back to this story in a
Sure.
second. Because when people are drinking out there and people are using, or people are in food addiction, whatever addiction it is, they'll go to whatever means necessary it is to get that high.
Yeah.
And they'll jump off a cliff if they thought there was their drug on
It's
the
like
other
when people
side.
get sober and we take them on a hike and they don't want to walk up the top of the hill.
Right.
And I always say, well, if you were still using and I told you there are drugs at the top of the hill,
Right.
we would have been up there already.
And it's constantly, that's my, right, when you constantly hear people when they're getting sober, you're like, well, you have to do this. And they're like, really? For how
right.
long?
Yeah, right.
That question was never asked when they were drinking or getting high. Nobody ever said, really, they bought heroin for how long?
Right.
And it's amazing what happens. And yeah, so go on. Sorry.
well, exactly. It was 1966. LSD was Tim Leary was running around. Richard Alpert was running. They were promoting it. There were stories of people staring at the sun and going blind and jumping out of windows.
Do you think it came from the CIA? Do you think that? Do you have
when
any?
I was on acid, I did.
You did?
You need LSD.
Well, there's all the stories that what was it?
I thought it was crack.
What was it? What was the guy's name? Oswald. Who was the guy?
Yeah,
Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald?
Owsley.
Owsley, Owsley, and he was supposed to be the guy who manufactured the original badges and most of the LSD in America. And there was all these people who believed he was actually put there by the CIA to pacify civil upheaval because of the Vietnam War.
It was all the people taking LSD that came up with that theory.
I don't know.
No, as they were tripping. But who knows? What do you think?
Well, all I know is
all he knows is he took it.
When I took my first hit, I didn't care if it killed me or drove me insane. All I wanted was out of where I was.
Right.
So it was out of desperation, and I just didn't care.
Right.
And that's really the whole thing.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. That's Clean with a K. You could hear us on News Talk 760 KFMB San Diego, WWRL AM 1600 New York. Also at cleanradio.com. That's Clean with a K. Andrew, where do they find us on Facebook?
Facebook.com/Clean Radio.
Like us, join in the conversation. If there's anybody out there that has any questions or looking for a little guidance, give us a call. The number here is 888-458-5441. That's 888-458-5441. We're in the studio tonight with Marc DuQuette, author of How I Almost Survived America's Cultural Revolution.
And we're on the acid trip.
We're on the acid.
Notice how I deftly moved around any more references to the CIA.
Yes.
Is that out of paranoia?
Right. That was one of the Andrew was joking with you about before the show. Is like now you're going to be on the grid again.
Right. We got him on the radio show.
You're on forever.
He's on the grid again.
After the show, ask us to muzzle the face or whatever they do.
Well, we've shadowed him. Yeah.
Sure, we have. So it's 19. So you're into LSD. You get out of the hospital. How long does that last?
Or what did that progress into?
Oh, that progressed into moving up to Oregon and forming a commune in the
what part of Oregon?
Forest. Southern Oregon, around Grants Pass.
Oh my goodness!
South of Grants Pass, a place called Tequilma. Near Cave Junction.
That's a funny name, Tequilma.
Yeah.
There's a lot of funny names in Oregon, and Dead Man's Point and
Butcher Knife Creek.
It's every place up there is like something about dying. It's
it is.
It's very strange.
So you moved up there and you started a commune.
Moved up there, started a commune, alienated ourselves from the townspeople.
Wow.
They'd come out and shoot at us, and then
really
we'd shoot back.
How does that work when you start a commune? Do you go with people?
Yeah. There was about 20 families of us.
Hence commune. You have to have more than one.
I was curious how they started. Is there one person there first, and then the others start?
Then you put an ad in the paper.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a dude out in the woods in Oregon.
Right.
I'm drinking, and I need somebody to drink with.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's hear.
That was it.
Let's hear. That's how it was. It was the newspaper ad.
No, there were about 20 families of us from Orange County that ran together. There were UCI professors. There was a couple lawyers. There was carpenters. And we sold everything we had. We moved up there sight unseen, bought land, and our goal was to do a communal garden and build our houses communally. And we thought we were pioneers like in the old days. But
so you didn't have a toilet or anything?
No toilets. No, we had a hoe, that HOE, that we'd take our hoe out into the woods, and we'd go to the bathroom out there.
And where were you getting? And this was when you were still doing the LSD.
Yes.
And where were you getting LSD? I mean, listen. I was born in '76.
And he doesn't work for the DA.
Yeah.
DEA.
So, but I don't know about this stuff.
We
DA.
were getting Purple Owsley from up in Portland.
Okay.
Yeah. It was cheap too. It was like $4 a hit.
Well, I guess that was why it was good to move to Oregon. It was like it's like you have to if you come from a religious family, you move to a place where there's churches.
So did you have a distillery up there in your commune, or was there alcohol, or?
I was the major alcoholic,
right,
in the commune. They didn't like alcoholics. They called us juice heads. And they were all into marijuana and LSD, and I thought that marijuana stimulated my lower chakras, So I didn't smoke pot, but I took acid. So that's how strange you are. But alcohol was my base. That was my base drug.
Drug of choice.
Yes, ever since I was a kid.
That makes two of us in the studio.
Yeah. We actually have a call in line too. Why don't we go ahead and take that? Or did our engineer just walk out? I think our engineer just walked out.
You could hit it, can't you? Oh, it's not in front of you? Okay, we'll get to that caller in a second. Line
Okay,
2, just hold
hang on.
And we're in a new studio. We're in a different studio tonight because they're showing the Clipper game in Los Angeles. So
Right,
the pros we're like, no matter where we sit, we could do this show. So let's get back to you living in Oregon, which I'm sort of fascinated by, and Takilma.
Okay, well, that lasted about a year, and the commune broke down. We had no uniting philosophy. We had vegetarians. We had meat eaters. We had deer hunters.
Sounds like my condo building
Right,
in LA.
so it's basically like a bunch of people with nothing in common.
Nothing
just
in
no
common
toilet.
except
Right,
drugs.
just like, hey, let's all go to a commune.
Drugs is what they had in common.
Drugs.
Right.
That was it.
Did the people there get along?
No, no. If you've seen Easy Rider,
It was like that.
it was like the commune they visited, where everybody's ripping each other off for their hash. And
Wow. Holy mackerel.
But not you, because you
Hey,
were a juicer.
we can actually
Not me.
we can take our call now. Why don't we go ahead and take our call? I believe we have Greg on the line.
Hey,
Yeah?
Greg, welcome to
Greg?
KLEAN Radio.
Are you there?
Greg is gone.
Greg is gone.
It's all good.
Greg
It's the
is
thought
gone.
that counts.
Yeah. Call back, Greg.
Yeah, let's call back. So let's get out the number quickly in case people forgot. It's 888-458-5441. That's 888-458-5441. We're in the studio tonight with Marc DuQuette, who's telling us about the unhappy commune.
We're getting a lesson on alcoholic communes.
We really are.
I didn't realize all this stuff was like real. You hear about it, but you never really
Yeah, and you did it.
I did it.
Yeah.
You guys are going so fast. You're confusing me, man. You're confusing me, man.
So nobody cared. So nobody stole yours. You were happy because you just drank. You drank.
I drank. I drank.
Well, and the
a lot.
LSD. Let's not forget the LSD.
But that wasn't as important.
Is the drinking.
It really wasn't. Yeah, and I found that out.
When you ran out of LSD.
When I ran out of LSD.
When he ran out of alcohol.
Yeah, right.
He's like,
And more
all I
important.
have is LSD now?
That's really true. That's good. Yeah.
So how long did you drink for? And then did you just stop once, or did you have a long sort of path of getting to the point where you were sober?
This is a good story. I joined after the commune broke up. We moved back down to Orange County in L.A. I joined a political group that was so radical that they wouldn't allow us to use drugs or to get drunk. And they were so highly disciplined.
They were called the monks.
Right. The high priesthood of Orange County.
Yeah. So
Or how do you say
they're
Orange?
in the book.
And they're in the book.
They're in the book. And so I knew I couldn't drink without getting drunk. So I couldn't predict it. I couldn't predict it. And so I stopped drinking alcohol and I stopped taking drugs for 2 years and 2 months.
Wow.
And on my own, no program, no meetings. So that convinced me that I couldn't be an alcoholic, because if you're an alcoholic, you can't stop drinking for 2 years and 2 months. But when I'm not even going to say relapse, because I wasn't sober anyway. I was just white knuckling it. But when I started drinking again, I stayed drunk and stoned and wired for 5 years straight. And it just the disease progressed so rapidly and so bad.
I think, Andrew, that's an important thing to talk about, what he's talking about, because I don't think a lot of people really understand that out there about progression in alcoholism.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, for some people it can happen very quickly. Other people it takes a long time, and then you can have a quick descent. We got a call, actually. Let's go ahead and take the call. I think we got the caller back on the line. This is KLEAN Radio. You're on the air.
KLEAN Radio.
Hello?
Hello. Yeah, you're on the air with KLEAN
This is
Radio.
Fred.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. I realize how important it is for broadcasters to speak the language correctly. And I just wanted to say on the expertise of a well-known linguist that it is orange, like Florida oranges.
Are you friends with
Oranges
Andrew?
grow in Florida. They don't grow in Oregon, but they do grow in Florida. That's what my Aunt Florence from Long Island used to say.
So how do you pronounce it?
Me personally, I slip occasionally, and I will say orange.
So why?
But
Hey,
I
where do you live
and
now?
I say no.
Who is this, Chris or Greg?
It's Greg.
Greg. It's
He
Greg,
lives
right?
he lives in Orange
Where
County.
do you live?
San Diego.
You live in San Diego.
San Diego County.
But you're a native New Yorker, right?
Yes.
Don't
sir.
lose
and
that,
my
man.
Dad,
Stay New Yorker.
His
Yeah.
sister-in-law was Florence.
Right.
Always from Aunt Florence.
Yeah. It's
So,
like my
and I wanna
grandmother was
say that's
Rosalie.
The correct pronunciation.
All right. Well, we greatly appreciate that. And Judah feels a little less inadequate.
Yeah,
So
just a little bit. If he still said it the correct way, I would.
yeah. I hear
Greg,
you.
thank you very much for your.
It was great
linguistics.
hearing that pronunciation. I heard it all my life.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
I made somebody tonight feel good.
That's the first time
Yes,
I
that
think
is
ever
actually.
in the evening you've ever made someone feel good, Judah.
It's amazing. That's our Barbara Walters moment. And Greg, thank you for the call.
Right.
By the way, if you just turned in, you're listening to Clean Radio Live. We're not a linguistic show. We're a show about addiction and recovery and the hope. We're got to take a break in a few seconds, but we're in the studio tonight with Marc DuQuette, author of Orange. Okay, I'm just going to forget that. How I Almost Survived
Orange
America's Cultural
Sunshine. Just look at me.
Revolution.
I'll say the
Yeah, I'll be
title,
like
Judah.
it's ORANGE Sunshine. How I Almost Survived America's Cultural Revolution. Mark's about to tell us about how he got sober. We've heard the story about that 5 years. I'm actually interested in hearing about that 5 year story. So you drank after you're sober 2.5 years, 2 years, 2 months. You white knuckled it. Then you went into major addiction.
Right. I started drinking near beer, so-called non-alcoholic
Yeah.
beer. I found there was traces of alcohol in it, enough I could get a buzz if I chugged 3 of them. One day I heard something on the news I didn't like, something that offended my political sensibilities. I traded the near beer for a Budweiser, and I was off and running, and within 3 weeks I was full bore.
And we'll
All
be
right,
right
so
back.
we'll be right back. Listen to Clean Radio. We'll be back with our guest, Mark. And you're listening to Clean Radio.
Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs? Call KLEAN Treatment Center at 888-601-6040 for a free drug test and consultation. A treatment advisor is available to help you administer the test and answer any questions you may have regarding treatment and more. We are here to help. Call us today at 888-601-6040 or find us online at cleantreatmentcenter.com for your free drug test and the start of a promising future.
Now, back to Andrew and Judah.
Welcome back to Clean Radio. I'm Andrew, and my co-host Judah, who has the correct pronunciation of orange.
Yes, you just said it exactly like I do.
Okay,
Orange.
sure.
Orange
and,
sunshine.
And we are here with our very, very special guest, who I'm so pleased to have here tonight, Marc DuQuette.
Thank you.
Who is doing an amazing job of telling us about things that I thought were all sort of myths.
And I had no idea about. You're listening to Clean Radio Live, by the way, but you're right. I mean, he's telling us about stuff in the 70s. It's a commune he's telling us about.
He's lived like 5 lives, and we haven't even gone through half the
But
story
it's a
yet.
miserable commune.
Right.
I mean, that's the funniest thing.
Well,
He lived
that's
in a
what's so great
commune
about
where
it.
they hated each other.
Right. It's like every family.
Yeah. And I also learned how you build a commune. You have to start it at once.
I also think having no toilet is just like anybody that. How long were you there with no toilet?
Almost a year.
A whole year with no toilet. You actually did not use a toilet
How
for a
did you
year.
shower?
That's exactly right.
You'd have to be drinking.
in the Illinois
right? You would
River.
have to be drinking.
In the Illinois River. You'd
Yeah.
have to be drinking.
Right?
Well, I venture to say that's how many people probably died. They went to shower in the Illinois River,
Drunk.
high on heroin or drunk.
LSD.
And they never saw them again.
Right.
They were like,
That's
what
why-
happened to Cletus?
No,
Took
what
a
happened to
shower.
communes?
Yeah, yeah.
They just all drowned out.
What did happen to communes?
I think people decided toilets were worth it.
Toilets were the
And
way
a hot shower was a nice thing.
So then you left the commune. You white knuckle it for 2 years, 2 months, and then you go on a 5-year binge.
That's right.
Just drinking.
Drinking and speed
Right.
and coke and a few psychedelics. I was pretty much burned out by them. Yeah.
And then what happened?
After I got my second 502 or second drunk driving, I was involved in a hit-and-run property, and I got stopped for drunk driving on a suspended license, and making a terrible noise in Costa Mesa. And helicopter was involved and everything. It was very dramatic.
Even his ending is a great part of the story. It's like, it wasn't just, hey, I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous. He's like, I'm on the road, there's helicopters.
Everything had to be over the top.
Okay, you did a lot of psychedelics where they're really helicopters.
But
And were they black?
Yeah.
I was offered. My lawyer took me to the most liberal judge. They offered me AA and alcoholism counseling for a year. I refused.
Wow.
I was the only person I know who refused the court card. And so they sentenced me to Orange County Main Jail. And
What was the thinking there?
alcoholic thinking.
Yeah, you just
just
angry, bitter,
just an angry alcoholic.
Yeah,
yeah, and full of pride and arrogance
and anger.
Yeah, and when I got out of there, I continued drinking for about another 6 months, and
wow, studio malfunction, but yet we continue here.
I think that we just had the DEA just put a camera in the wall.
And since our clean sign just fell down, I think it's a good time to give the number here. It's 888-458-5441. That's 888-458-5441. If you're listening in New York on 1600 AM, we welcome you to call, or News Talk 760 KFMB. So we had a New Yorker in San Diego that told me how to pronounce orange. Now I want to hear from a New Yorker in New York that's going to tell me how to pronounce orange. You're listening to Clean Radio Live. We're in the studio tonight with author Marc DuQuette, author of Orange Sunshine, How I Almost Survived America's Cultural Revolution. And sorry to continue. So you're at the end. Helicopters
at the end of the drinking career after I got out of jail. I had an experience. December 19th, 1981. I woke up in a cold sweat. I jumped out of bed. I sat in my chair. I had kind of an experience where I saw myself as I really was. The way I figured it out later was I didn't have enough energy to keep my denial system up. So I saw myself as a man in his late 30s dying of alcoholism. And I never used that word to describe myself. And I picked up a legal pad and I started writing everything I'd ever done under the influence of alcohol. All the people I'd ripped off, all the commitments I'd broken, all the people I'd hurt. I wrote it all down on a legal pad.
Were you still on speed at this point?
No, I wasn't on anything.
To be writing all that fast?
Just coming off of alcohol.
Coming off alcohol.
Yeah.
As a moment of clarity.
I was inspired. Yeah.
That's interesting. And did you stay sober from that point on?
I did.
Wow.
Did. Yeah, I picked up the phone and called the central office of a 12-step program, and I went to a meeting that night, and I saw the steps up on the wall, and I threw myself into the steps and changed all my friends. Your topic of loneliness was very appropriate because I had to change all the friends I had. I was a barroom drinker.
Yeah.
And my whole support system in toxic alcoholism was other alcoholics who were drinking. So I had to completely change my friends. I hung out with recovering people only.
What did you say to those? You must have run into some of those people, or they'd call you. And how did you deal with having?
I would bet none of them ever called you.
Nobody ever called me. We were willing to give our
they didn't have
lives
cell
for
phones.
each other in the bar, sitting on the bar, sitting on the bar stool.
Yeah.
We'd die for each other.
But once you left the bar,
once I left the bar, nobody called.
There's a band called the Goo Goo Dolls, and they have a great line in one of their songs, and it says, "See the young man sitting in the old man's bar, waiting for his turn to die." And I remember when I used to hear the lyrics, when I used to hear that going, oh, God, that's me. Because there's always a mailman in the bar. It's like the characters, and I'm not referring to Cliff on Cheers, who always had something.
Who says something like that? There's always a mailman.
There's
in the
always
bar.
a postal worker.
I don't think I've never been.
There was a postal worker.
Really, I
yes.
have never been in a bar with a
we're
mailman.
talking about the local
at the
dive.
the Buccaneer.
Oh,
bar.
you don't think I've hung out in a few local bars?
Yeah, not really.
Oh, go, please.
But we're talking about local, like Brooklyn. We're talking about those where dreams go to die.
The two of you with your postal worker.
There was a postal worker.
Yeah,
right.
there was.
And so none of them afterwards. That was it. That was it. And but it's funny because in Brooklyn, I used to sometimes as I was walking home, I'd see the bartender walking down the street, and it was never like, "Hey, Tony, how you doing?" It was like, like I got a nod.
The nod of "I'll see you later."
And part of me was like so embarrassed to see him. Like a part of me, I'm always thinking, did I have any tabs there still? And. But that's what it's like drinking in a bar. That's the lonely and the isolation that you put yourself in. And it's sort of amazing. You went to a commune. You're an extremely social guy. You have ideas, you have thoughts. You built a commune.
Well, certainly adventurous.
Right. You're extremely adventurous. And yet at the end, it was that bar.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And it's funny because I had the same experience when I walked into a 12-step meeting this time. I didn't care who really said hello to me. I was just happy people were saying hello.
Well, and your commune was in Brooklyn.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's what we talk about all the time, Andrew. It's like, and one of the cool things, and I'm not saying, if people out there need help, go to treatment if you can.
Right.
But one of the cool things about KLEAN Treatment Center, and I'm not saying this, I'm saying this as a guy that's been to 6 rehabs. Mm-hmm. That's sober over 13 years. One of the things I love about KLEAN is that there's heart, and it's like you feel this certain thing when you walk in that you're going to be okay. And I'm sure that's something you knew, going in building, and it's an amazing thing because it's and Mark's going to come visit us one of these days because you guys are going to go somewhere.
We're going to go to the shooting range.
The shooting range.
Right.
And I'm in the studio with 2 gun enthusiasts. And but one of the things is we're in the
My
middle
mom's going to be upset now.
We're in the middle of West Hollywood. Don't worry. Hey, he's healthy. Look at your son, Mom. I mean, look at him. So he shoots a few guns. Get over it.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
And
let's not get into.
I'm gonna get it from your mom now.
Yeah, right.
But one of the things, and I want you to see this. It's like you have this rehab in the middle of West Hollywood, and all of a sudden you walk in and you're like in this oasis.
Right.
And it's an oasis of hope. And I'm not using that word to sound cliche.
Sounds a little hokey.
It does, but
it's true.
Truth.
It's a cool place.
And I think that's what so many people out there that are going through a rough time out there just want to hear, that you're going to be okay and that there's hope.
Yeah.
And what better guest that we have in tonight? You were in a commune where people hated each other. You had
no toilets.
Yeah, no
drank,
toilets. Right.
Showered in a river.
I mean, you're out of a hospital on a chopper accident.
Right.
You're
Taking LSD.
Black helicopters
got
are chasing
automatic
you.
guns.
We could really make the story even worse.
Right?
Yeah. And nobody could really prove it because he was on LSD.
Right.
And
maybe
then,
half of it's
and then
just
you
all
walk into the 12-step meeting and you find yourself at home.
That's right. That's right. And a whole new set of friends, and but I was still very shy and shame based.
Yeah.
It took me a long time before I would even share at a meeting. I had kind of a little mantra that I would do. I'm thankful to my higher power and you people in these rooms.
Right.
I did that for about 3 years.
What were you ashamed? What were you in shame of?
Oh, I was in shame of the until I completed the step 9. I think I was just felt so bad about hurting so many people.
But the reason I asked that is because you didn't have, like Andrew keeps on thinking about, you didn't have a bathroom for a year, and you were bathing in the Illinois River, yet you had shame. And the shame wasn't about not having the bathroom. And it's amazing how the disease of alcoholism works.
I think not having the bathroom is a political statement.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Was it a political statement? What is the political statement of not having a bathroom?
Being off the grid?
We did build an outhouse, and it was a fine outhouse. And Josephine County officials came. It was about the man.
Yeah.
Josephine County,
learned something new?
Josephine County officials came
Us
out
gun
and
guys know.
and they condemned our outhouse. And so
they'd rather have you have no outhouse than
we said, okay, no outhouse. Josephine County doesn't want us to have an outhouse. By God, we'll go in the woods, and that's what we did.
Wow.
And so 1981 is the year you got sober.
Yes.
You were how old? 39 years old?
Yes.
And what's it been like since?
It's been interesting. The desire to drink and use was lifted, and I think only through grace did that happen. Through my own efforts, no, it wouldn't have happened. And as long as there's something we say about the maintaining our spiritual condition, and I think that has a lot to do with it. I just try to. All the bumper stickers I used to make fun of, I now live.
You've become a bumper sticker.
I've become a bumper sticker. Yeah.
We have to make a new one about how to say orange, though.
Yeah. That's, oh, God. Zoe, I love your dad. And call him up tomorrow and say orange for me. By the way, if you just turned in and you're listening to KLEAN Radio Live, that's KLEAN with a K. We're in the studio tonight with author, all-around amazing story guy, Marc DuQuette. He's the author of Orange Sunshine. Then I can't say the sunshine part. It only works Orange Sunshine.
What's going on with you tonight?
How I Almost Survived America's Cultural Revolution. You could find this on Facebook at KLEAN Radio, Facebook/KLEAN Radio. That's KLEAN with a K. And the number here is 888-458-5441. That's 888-458-5441. Give us a call about anything. You just want to talk to Marc. Let's get back to this amazing story because we don't have that much more time, but this is fascinating. Let's go. Let's run with it. 1981, you sober. What do you do after?
What I did after, I listened to what the old timers told me, and some of the things I took their advice and their direction. Some things I didn't. And sometimes when I share at a big meeting of the particular 12-step program I go to, I'll say half measures availed me something, and that doesn't go over very well, but it's true.
Why don't you explain to people out there listening that don't know about what you're talking about?
Well, it's kind of an all or nothing thing. It's a life and death issue, this recovery and addiction, and it's, you know, we're fun people, and we kid around and we make fun of ourselves, and that's one of the ways we stay sober and clean. Is not getting too high on ourselves. And so by saying half measures availed me something, what I'm saying is I took the direction that saved my life and kept me sober. I didn't make any changes for a year. I didn't get in any new relationships for a year. I didn't quit my job. I didn't well, I was going to say, I think I'll leave that alone. But I didn't make any heavy changes.
You can plead the fifth on the radio.
Yeah, I'm going to.
We'll cut that part out. Wink, wink.
Yeah, right.
What was it? And so
But I did throw myself into the steps. I worked the steps diligently, systematically, and methodically. And with all the sincerity I could muster, I worked the steps, and I attended meetings, and I went to study big book studies, and.
So how's being sober changed your life?
Well, I wouldn't have a life, for one thing. I used to sit on the bar stools and talk about wanting to go to India, for instance. And I've been to India 11 times in sobriety.
11 times.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like Andrew and I are sitting here like jealous of you. We're like, man, you've done it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've been to India 11 times.
11 times since 1994.
Did you get sick at all? Like, that's my fear of going to India, that I'm going to get sick.
And you say I'm Jewish. That's your first question about India.
I'm not Jewish, but I have fears. I'm a hypochondriac.
Yeah. I got really sick the last time I went.
Really?
I wasn't sick there, but when I got home, I got.
That's what I hear.
Sick.
You get sick like right when you get home.
Yeah. It was 10 days of misery. Yeah.
Wow.
And one of the interesting things you were talking about was God. That your idea of God when you were in India and all that. You found it as a spiritual God, not necessarily religious.
Right. Yeah. That's how I look at it, is spirituality, not religion. But what works for me might not work for someone else, and vice versa. I'm more Eastern mystically inclined, and always have been since since I was in my early 20s. I've been interested in cosmic consciousness and yoga and reincarnation and karma and all that, and so my life, my path, is in harmony with that, but I don't teach it and preach it.
You're teaching them, it's like they say, it's a program of attraction, not promotion.
That's
Andrew
right.
and I are going to be booking tickets this week to India, and we're going to be doing.
I'm bringing prepackaged
Yeah,
food.
we're going to be doing clean radio from somewhere in India. I was about to say Delhi, and
Delhi's good.
And so, when did you write this book, Orange Sunshine?
About 4 years ago.
And inspiration to write it.
People told me that I should write it because I've told these stories about the commune and my motorcycle wreck and so many things. They said, you've got to write this book, and there are people who were in the commune with me. I have witnesses that wanted me to write it too.
I like how he's got witnesses.
and so that's. And it's available on Amazon, and my reader reviews on Amazon have been very kind. They've been very kind to me on this book.
Fantastic.
So people go to Amazon.com and they type in.
Did you have to change any names in the book?
I did. There's two and there's two Orange Sunshines. That's why it was important that how I almost survived America's Cultural Revolution. Somebody else wrote a book called Orange Sunshine too, and it was about Timothy Leary and the Brotherhood, and so there's the two Orange Sunshines floating around.
Right. So make sure you get the right one.
Get the right one. Yeah.
Get the one with the guy with the gun on the front.
The guy with the gun on the front.
And you guys are going to be going shooting pretty soon.
I'm excited.
Yeah. How did you get to be? I mean, you seem to be extremely at peace, extremely content. How long did that take? Because I don't think and I think that's the thing you hear often when people are getting sober. It's like they have 2 minutes sober and they're like, when do I get happy?
Right.
Why aren't I happy right now?
Right. Where's all the
you were
promises?
miserable for 30 years. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks. How how was the progression? How did that?
Very gradually, I think. I run into people that say, Mark, you're not as angry as you used to be. And what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
You get angry about not being angry?
Yeah. So some people, it happens overnight. They get the road to Damascus thing.
I don't believe they're really alcoholic. I always say that. Anybody that comes into AA a day later is like, woohoo!
No.
I'm like, stay away.
No, that wasn't me.
I want to see the miserable people because it's always that person that you see that you're like, please God, I don't want to see him the next day at a meeting. They're there.
No, that wasn't me.
So it took you a long time.
It was a gradual, and I'd look back on where I was a year ago, 5 years ago, and I think, wow, I really have mellowed. It's true.
And I think that's something Andrew and I speak about all the time. Is that out there? What do you say to people, Andrew? I mean, is there clinical or what is that for people when they get sober? They forget, the misery.
Well, there's part of alcoholism in general is denial, and so your brain, if you actually don't have some sort of shift, will start trying to trick you into drinking again. And one of the ironies is people actually like to get healthy, and they're like, oh, I actually now feel good enough to drink again.
Right.
They don't realize that the alcohols or the drug is what actually keeps pulling them down. So that's why it's a vicious cycle, and that's why we see so much relapse. The healthier people get when they first get sober, sometimes, unfortunately, the more likely they are to relapse if they don't have a real deep understanding that it's the addiction that brought them to that level of health and mental breakdown or suffering.
And it's also hard because you're talking about with the families. I mean, how many times are you encountered with family members that want to see them the next day better?
Well, and also there's so much anger.
Right.
Most family members, the best family members are the ones that never give up. There's all this stuff about tough love and all that stuff. Some of it's okay. Setting good boundaries, whatever. But I've rarely seen someone recover, especially a younger adult, and by that I mean sort of like 30 and younger. seems like adolescence seems to get longer and longer.
Oh, we're living longer.
Yeah, right. So, but where the family doesn't stick with people at some level. I think that love and caring about a family member with good boundaries. And setting, appropriate sort of rules for interaction is very important.
At 8.5 years sober, I had to get into recovery for my codependency. It was I almost was intervened on. In my work, I was rewriting treatment plans. I got into control issues, and I had to take a good look at my codependency. And attend some other meetings too.
And that's what we see with a lot of addictions. Other things will crop up, and or people will push to a different addiction. And sometimes it's a process addiction. So people will go from alcoholism to gambling, and think that it's a different problem or that they don't have a problem.
As long as they're not drinking.
But they're activating the same part of the brain that alcohol was sort of servicing. So, we don't really know exactly how it really works completely. I mean, there's some people that tell you we know exactly how. They really don't. We know more and more every day. Research is getting better and better. But we do know the basic structure of how addiction works, and we know that it has to do with brain chemistry, and it's highly affected by what are called externalities or, things that happen in your environment. So you can have like two identical twins that have the same set of genes, and depending on their environment, one might become alcoholic when one may not.
Or one might one might have put it to good use.
Right. The
ism.
Yeah, well, the potential to have been alcoholic,
Right.
they might have recognized it and then still been able to ward it off. And that's where I think the real hope is, that we're not a victim of our genes, even if we might be predisposed to addiction.
Right.
There's still a hope to be able to control the illness of addiction and to have a life that can actually, I think, sometimes be more rewarding than people that actually don't have that suffering in their life.
Oh, I agree, and it's funny that it's amazing that we're talking about this, because if I were to listen sometimes to this, I go, and if I were a layman and outside guy, and I can imagine some of them saying, "Man, you poor saps."
Yeah, right.
You poor saps.
What on earth are you talking about?
You're sober. You got to go treat yourself for codependency.
Right.
At 16 years, you got to treat yourself for.
Right.
Right. But you know what?
Go back to using speed and get on a motorcycle again.
I choose this, and it's funny, but I choose this over. I always say that to people at your treatment center. It's like, ask anybody with AIDS or cancer if the cure for it were eating and talking about yourself. Would they take it? And that's what I say about Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps. So it's working on yourself, talking about yourself, going to eat, and that's the treatment.
I think a lot of it's thinking by yourself too. And I think, as important as treatment centers are and detox and, the medical aspects of getting people sober, and then ongoing therapy and treatment, 12-step groups, a lot of it is that people need to do work with themselves and take the time to actually think about themselves. And in today's world where everything's got to happen now and it has to be immediate and everything has to be going in your favor or it's wrong, and if it isn't, there's a pill for it.
Yeah.
There's too much of that. I mean, the reality is that life is not always about being happy all the time, and there's opportunity, as they say, in crisis.
It's amazing you said that, because my friend Big Judah said that to me one time. When I was newly sober, I go, "I'm not happy today. I'm not happy all the time." He goes, "Were you before you started drinking?"
Yeah, right.
And I didn't have a good. I was like, "No." He's like, "So why do you think every moment you should be happy?" And that's like a society. You hear, it's those things. But the one thing is that I've noticed about our guest is there is a difference, right, between being content and, content. It doesn't always mean you're going to be happy, but you're okay with what happens.
Right.
I mean, do you feel that?
I do.
And did that help in writing this book? Would you have ever been able to write this book? Obviously, is this like a sobriety gift to yourself?
Writing that book was very fun. It started out as a chore. It was almost like doing the world's biggest 4-step, and it brought, because there's things I'm hard on myself in that book, and I make fun of myself. I'm not the hero of my own book there, and some of the stuff was pretty hard to write, but the more I got into it, the more fun I started to have with it. And I think that's one of the things sobriety has taught me, is I have fun at levels that I didn't even conceive of before. just being me, just having fun being Mark.
That's an amazing story. We're in the studio tonight with author Marc DuQuette. We're going to have to go in a couple minutes. He's the author of the book Orange Sunshine.
That was pretty good, Judah.
Orange. I've been
It
thinking
only
about
took an
for us.
hour.
How I Almost Survived America's Cultural Revolution. Where do people find this book?
On Amazon.
Please, I beg of everybody out there, you got it. I mean, this is an incredible man we have in the studio tonight. His name is Marc DuQuette. Like I said, the name of the book is How I Almost Survived America's Cultural Revolution.
Mark, you got a website?
Yeah, it's Mark at marcduquette.net. M-A-R-C at MARCDUQUETTE.net.
And if you didn't miss that, just go to Facebook.com/Clean Radio. We'll have all the listing up there, and you can watch the video of this show on Thursday.
I'm surprised you don't make people pre-screen how they buy your book.
Yeah,
Like
right.
you only allow people that you allow.
Have you ever been a member of the DEA?
And
Were you in a commune in Oregon? And I don't remember you.
Yeah. That should be your next book, How to Build a Commune. I mean, that's just because Andrew and I think both of us have learned something new tonight.
We're out of here. We got to go.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, San Diego. Thank you, New York. We'll see you next week at 8 p.m. on Sunday. And
The discussion
Judah?
continues at cleanradio.com.
Sounds great.
Thanks for listening to Clean Radio.
Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs? Call KLEAN Treatment Center at 888-601-6040 for a free drug test and consultation. A treatment advisor is available to help you administer the test and answer any questions you may have regarding treatment and more. We are here to help. Call us today at 888-601-6040 or find us online at cleantreatmentcenter.com for your free drug test and the start of a promising future.